Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in the year 2021. We are doing day 107. And after spending some time in the Psalms, we're now back to First Samuel, and we're doing chapters 25, 26, and 27. So let's continue with the history of David here. And we continue the history of David by stating, now Samuel died. I don't know. It just seems so brief. It just like Samuel was awesome. He was just awesome. And this is what we have of him. Now Samuel died, and all Israel gathered to mourn for him. They buried him at his home in Ramah. David then left and went down to the Maon wilderness. I guess it's appropriate that um, as awesome as these guys are, you can't upstage Yahweh. These are servants, and they're here for a period of time, and then they move on. And so that's the mention. It's like Moses had a little more big deal of him, but Miriam, it was like Miriam died. Israel didn't move for 30 days, mourned her, and they moved on. Then Aaron died, and they had a period of mourning. Then Moses died, they had a period of mourning. Like it's just so final. But that's death. Um, it is as we get into this story now, where David ends up getting married for the second time. It's you may question and wonder, but it was a normal thing for civilians, the normal population, to support the military. And in this case, there's some tradition to also supporting um, small militias. And but in this case, David's he's running. He's running from the king. He's a wanted man. And even though he knows he's innocent, and we know he's innocent, the people have to kind of choose sides. And David comes across somebody who chose a side, and it wasn't David's. And so we read here in verse 8, ask your servants, they will tell you the same. So please receive these young men favorably because we've come on a special day. Please give whatever you have on hand to your servants and to your son David. So David's not military. He's not on the king's side. He's not a king aligned a militia. Um, so what he presents here is that he was kind to the shepherds, and if you want to consider kind, they didn't attack them, they didn't steal anything from them. They need to be rewarded, right, for for being good guys. But at the same time, they provided protection. The shepherds had no problems. They were never raided. Nothing was stolen from them whatsoever. So David is saying, on that basis, we're asking if you can help us out. But Nabal, uh, really, he just didn't say no, but the insult that he gave was just incredible. But Nabal answered David's servants, "Who is David? Who's Jesse's son? There are all sorts of slaves running away from their masters these days." Yeah, and David gets that, and David's upset. He's a little hot-headed. Uh, could be just from running for so long, but in many ways, he is never taking vengeance himself. And but in this case, no, he's had it. He's mad. He just grabbed some of his men, say, "Let's go deal with this." How dare he? We were so kind to him. That was just a waste of time, wasn't it? And yeah, but then there's Abigail, Nabal's wife, and she really comes across like just a woman of nobility, a wise woman. But at the same time, I want you to understand, she knows what's going on. She sees what's going on. She has great insight, whether it's a spiritual insight or whether it's just the intuition that she has that David's going to be king. And she's positioning herself. So don't miss out on that. She's positioning herself, and tells David when he comes to his own, if he could kindly remember her and the kindness, and she is kind. Here in verse 30 and 31, when the Lord has done for my master all the good things he has promised you and has installed you as Israel's leader, don't let this be a blot or burden on my master's conscience, that you shed blood needlessly, or that my master took vengeance into his own hands. When the Lord has done good things for my master, please remember your servant. Yeah, I'm kind of emphasizing that last part, but look at the wisdom. Look at the insight that she has into Yahweh and into who David is. And she touches this chord in his heart that reminds him that he's always trusted the Lord for protection. He's always left vengeance in the Lord's hands. And she's saying here, like, don't let this be a blot or a burden, for what's coming up. The last thing you want to be thinking about is how you wiped out Nabal when you're becoming king. Don't let this rest on your conscience. Now, of course, David's impressed with this. In verse 32 and 33, David said to Abigail, "Bless the Lord God of Israel, who sent you to meet me today, and bless you and your good judgment." So he recognizes a good judgment for preventing me from shedding blood and taking vengeance into my own hands today. This is going to come into play later on. Abigail has really impacted David in a big way here. It's going to be long lasting. And we have here, when David heard that Nabal was dead. Okay, in verse 39. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Bless the Lord, who has rendered a verdict regarding Nabal's insult to me, and who kept me, his servant, from doing something evil. The Lord has brought Nabal's evil down on his own head." Then David sent word to Abigail, saying that he would take her as his wife. So he sees the value even more so here, because just a couple of days after he was going to go in and kill Nabal, here the Lord exacted vengeance on him on David's behalf, and David remembered Abigail and took Abigail as his second wife. And considering that he had no access to his first wife, and that Saul had actually given her away to somebody else as a wife. But there are things here you need to understand that Yahweh tolerates. Okay, he tolerates, and we read it in the Bible and we think, well, God must approve this. And no, it's not that he approved it. It was just something that wasn't being dealt with in that moment. There were so many other things, and there were certain things that he tolerated because there had to be a growing immaturity in understanding who he is, what his laws are, what his heart is, what righteousness looks like. And so we find here David also married Ahinoam from Jezreel. So both of them were his wives. So that's on top of Abigail. Now he has Jezreel. Very real. That's hard. We have revelation, like we have in the New Testament. It's made clear that an overseer should be a man of one wife. Okay, not multiple wives, but one wife. Just to make sure that that's clear and that practice came to an end. So going on. What was going through David's mind here? Like why he hears that Saul is in the neighborhood, and you'd think that he would run and hide, but what was going through his mind that he would decide, hey, Saul's in town, I should go visit him. And David asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Joab's brother Abishai, Zeruiah's son, who will go into the camp with me to Saul? I'll go down with you, Abishai answered. Yeah. Oh, you're just going to go down and face death. Well, I'll go with you. Yeah. And then why would they crawl into the camp? Why would they sneak up on the king? What was the motivation? What was the purpose here? What was he thinking? Why was he doing this? But he gets there, and Abishai like is, yeah, right. God has put your enemy into your hands. Now you'll be king. Yeah, here we go. And David's like, no, don't kill him. No one can lift a hand against the Lord's anointed and go unpunished. As surely as the Lord lives, David continued, it will be the Lord who will strike him down, or his day will come and he will die, or he'll fall in battle and be destroyed. The Lord forbid that I lift my hand against the Lord's anointed. But go ahead and take the spear by Saul's head and the water jug, and let's go. So this is the thing from Abigail again. David, you don't need to take this into your own hands. Like David already had this mindset, but how much more was it reinforced by Abigail's words and what happened in the ball and what God did? That David said, no, like, yeah, he's going to die, but it's not going to be from my hand. It will be Yahweh who deals with us. That's pretty awesome, and some of us need to learn that. And in verse 18 of chapter 26, uh, we see this plea from David to Saul. I mean, he still has these feelings for Saul. He's still, how much did Saul look like a father to him? And we have this plea. Why, David continued, is my master chasing me, his servant? What have I done? And what wrong am I guilty of? Like, lay it out for me. Let me see. Kind of a Job situation, right? And then we see this humility from David. David, he had that humility where he did not consider that he was worthy to marry the king's daughter. Who was he to bring his family into the circle of the king? Who was he? And we find that same humility here. Don't let my blood spill on the ground apart from the Lord's presence, because the king of Israel has come out looking for a single flea, like someone hunting a partridge in the mountains. Like, that's how David sees himself so much lower than Saul. Like, I'm not worth you wasting your time on. And then again we have that brief moment of sanity from Saul. It seems that he has these moments of clarity before the madness comes in. And then Saul said, I have sinned. David, my son, come back. Because you considered my life precious today. I won't harm you again. I have acted foolishly and have made a huge mistake. Here, here's something. It's a revelation maybe for some of you. It's just reinforcement for some of us. And it can be very hard where we feel that our position is to do all these great things for Yahweh and never expect anything in return, or we say, well, I've received everything I need to receive. It is true, but it's Yahweh is a rewarder. He loves pouring out things on those who are righteous, those who walk in obedience. He absolutely loves pouring out good things. And it is an insult to act all high and mighty and not accept it from his hand. It is terrible false humility to just refuse a gift from Yahweh. And we're reminded here, remember, the Lord rewards every person for their righteousness and loyalty. And I wasn't willing to lift a hand against the Lord's anointed, even though the Lord handed you over to me today. So it's the Lord. David's just saying it's the Lord. It's the Lord who rewards. It's the Lord who chastises. Yeah, it's these things are from the Lord. Then chapter 27, verse 1. This is sometimes hard things to read because David is learning so much, but there's times that we all fail. We're all weak. We're all tired. And look what it's in in verse 1 here of chapter 27. David thought. Okay. David thought. It wasn't Yahweh directed. David thought. And not everything we think is a thought from Yahweh. Some of it is just from our weakness. David thought, One day I will be destroyed by Saul's power. The best thing for me to do is to escape the Philistine territory. Then Saul will give up looking for me in Israelite territory, and I will escape his power. Sometimes the mercy the Lord shows to us when we step outside of things and we decide for ourselves, but our desire should be to ask Him and seek His direction. Look in verse 6 to 7. And the reason I give you this is because it's an actual time reference. So Achish gave the town of Ziklag to David at that time. That's why Ziklag sounds like a German town. That's why Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah until now. David lived in the Philistine countryside for a total of 1 year and 4 months. So this gives us a reference for time here. Um, so David continues attacking the enemy, acting like an Israelite, attacking the enemy while living among the enemies. David and his soldiers, of this verse 8, David and his soldiers went out on raids against the Gershites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites. They were the people who lived in the land from Telem to Shur, all the way to the land of Egypt. Here's a question for you. In verse 12, was Achish that knave, or did Yahweh dull his mind? Because Achish trusted David, thinking David has alienated himself so badly from his own people in Israel that he'll serve me forever. Yeah, David is destined to be king. Everybody could sense it on him. It was seen from the day of Goliath. So Achish either had no discernment whatsoever, knave in these sort of things, or Yahweh had purposely dulled his mind, so David had a place to hide. So that's a lot. That's a lot to cover today. Thank you guys for taking that in. And we will continue with David tomorrow. You guys be blessed. Enjoy your day. And I pray that you continue discovering more and more about this great Father who loves us so much. God bless.